Welcome to Lawyers Who Learn, where we explore how attorneys' engagement and lifelong learning fuels their growth. Join us to uncover these journeys and gain insights for your legal career.
Alistair, thank you so much for joining Lawyers Who Learn. Super excited to dig deeper into your story. You got a lifetime's worth of experience so far, and you don't look like you have any gray hairs yet. So thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You reached out to me on LinkedIn maybe a month or two ago, and I don't remember. Oh, you saw Bo's interview. Bo Atkins, who's amazing. And
Yeah.
I've met him years ago at the ABA Tech Show, and I was super pumped to do the interview, and we did it, and it was as good as I expected it to be. So thank you for reaching out. I must note that you are in a garage. It is, like I said before we started the show, that's the ultimate startup vibe, or the starting in a garage. But then you showed me this cool chamber where it's completely soundproof. And that's
like
how you
99% soundproof probably,
Okay.
but
Right.
it's really good. And it has a ventilation system in here. You can turn on the lights and yeah, I love it.
So you no longer park in that garage, I would assume.
It would be challenging. We have another garage for that.
Awesome. And where are you located?
I'm in North Van right now.
Where?
North Vancouver.
Okay. You said North Van. As a film from Brooklyn, New York, I wasn't sure where the van component. So Vancouver, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I got your timeline below. I'm going to read it for you super quick. This way we don't have to dive into each one, and maybe we'll just see where we go. So let me know how I do.
Okay.
You might want to sit down. There's a lot here. You were in the Canadian military for 7 years, and you were shot in the military and leading to medical release. Then it led to you going to get 2 degrees, and the military helped you with that. One was at the University of Victoria in psychology. The second one was a law school degree at the University of Birmingham. From there, you returned to Canada and you worked at a law firm in divorce law. And you actually helped it increase its revenue because you were doing biz dev from $2 million to $5 million. Then at CleoCon, you met the co-founder of Clio. His name is Ryan Gore. And he was, I think, stepping back at that time. And somehow you guys hit it off and you decided to, or he helped you start your first company, which was ClearWay Law. It was a legal review site, like a profile site, as you have said before, similar to Avo. Led to a lot of really tough complaints, but also hard to monetize. You then pivoted to a company, a tool that looked like time tracking. It was ClearWay Time. And then from there, I think on your own, you figured out, or you built your own tool called Caseway Legal Research. And you can probably in a minute share a little bit more insight. Like, it seems like you were built that separately, and you had to separate that from the original company. That could be wrong there. And then Caseway Legal Research is an AI tool to help find the legal research you need. And you actually have a lawsuit, or you had a lawsuit against you. I don't know when the interview was done, but lawsuits are always tough. And it was a lawsuit in regards to training data. And you're currently doing Caseway Legal, and you pivoted a number of times. You've been in the military. You have done a lot. And so there's a lot to dive into here. Anything big that I missed or forgot that is worth bringing up before we start our conversation?
I had an exit in between there too. So I had an e-commerce website where we were selling into China, and that was back in 2020. And we sold it to Better Life Sciences, and it was very different. It was a organic skincare company, but in the e-commerce space.
Awesome.
Okay. So I built that and sold it as well. So a lot of different stuff, but yeah, that was very accurate.
Awesome. I got it all from you. So
okay, good.
In your past interviews. So before we start and go through this, one question that I've been asking that sometimes leads to really interesting conversations: is there any topic or questions, because you do a lot of interviews, you speak a lot, that you're never really asked about, but you wish you were, as it relates to your growth path or your journey, that you would love to share and talk about it a little bit deeper? And if not, that's fine. but sometimes there's something that is always there. They're like, yeah, I want to talk about this. If not, I will dive deep into your story.
I find that people always focus on the highlights, the big things, lawsuits, big numbers, selling your companies. But there was certainly a period leading up to that where I was just grasping at straws, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And that was certainly the period after I got shot in the military. A lot of people go to school because they don't know what they want to do at the next stage of their life. So, as you mentioned, I did a degree in statistics and psychology, but then I went to law school. And since this is a law focused podcast, a lot of law students I've spoken to, I asked them why they went to law school, and they're like, I just don't know what I want to do in the next stage of my life. And I feel a lot of people become lawyers that way. And that once they're lawyers, they feel it's really hard to leave the industry. And I've spoken to lots of people, even Bo, who want to do something more than just practice law. They either want to build a very innovative, creative law firm, or they want to get into tech. But I find that's a story that's really common with people in the legal industry is they fall into it.
I love that phrase, grasping at straws, because honestly, we can all relate to grasping at straws. And I'm going to grasp at that phrase a little bit. So let's start with your military career. Was grasping at straws something that you wasn't sure what to do and where to go, and you ended up in the military? Tell us about that story, because obviously it takes a lot. It's a big challenge, and it takes a lot inside to want to join the military. And obviously you were shot, and I respect that. And I would love to hear how you ended up there.
Yeah. So I joined the military I applied for the military when I was 16. That's the youngest that you can apply. My father was in the Navy for 30 years. And as most teenagers, you want to get a job. So my prospects were pretty much join the military, work at McDonald's, work at Walmart, like my other friends. I just thought that shooting machine guns and blowing stuff up was significantly more cool than making hamburgers. So my dad helped me apply. And I actually got in on my 17th birthday. It took me about a year to get in. There was a lot
This is the Canadian military?
Yeah, Army.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I got into that. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I was always really interested in Navy SEALs, Special Forces, that kind of really high level of physical and mental discipline. And I started working towards that. And I actually applied for the Special Forces and passed the pre-selection, but they wanted me to get some operational experience because I was only 19 years old at the time before they would let me in. So I did this. I signed up for this counterterrorism operation at the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver. And the idea was that after that, we would go to Afghanistan. So it was a joint operation. And in the Canadian military, at least, there's something called workup training. And you do that for 6 months before you go to Afghanistan. And you have to do live fire exercises that are very intense. So versus the range where everything's very controlled and safe, you're going to be with 250 people going through a forest, shooting real bullets. You don't really know where everyone is, and it gets very intense. But the purpose of that is in Afghanistan or in war, you don't have the benefit of a nice controlled range where everything's safe and non-confusing. So we were working our way up through the various levels, and I ended up being on the farthest left of this shooting, what would be a shooting range, but it was going through a forest. And the main thing when you do this is you always shoot at your arcs. So you shoot forward basically at 45 degrees. And the idea is that you don't shoot your buddies, right? And so you don't shoot targets that you miss that are on your side. And now the two people to my right who were going forward, one was actually my boss, and they missed the target on their left. And they started shooting at it. The problem was it was a bush, and I was on the other side of that bush. And the range safety officer, who was like a captain or something, he saw that they were turning to engage the target, and he actually ran forward and grabbed me essentially by my tactical vest and pulled me back. One bullet went through my leg, my right leg. One bullet hit a tree right next to my face. I could feel the wind on my face or the crack. It feels like someone cracked a whip right in front of your face. There were rounds hitting the ground in front of me. You can see the little splashes and stuff. And that was an intense situation. But what was actually worse was that my boss tried to cover it up. And he told everyone I ran into the bullets and that I just for some reason, just bolted forward. And I would have been screwed because in the military, there's a chain of command. And essentially, if someone outranks you, what they say is always right. But I was lucky that this captain essentially saw everything, who was higher than my boss. And he backed up my story. And the military ended up giving me around $150,000 because of it as a payout. They ended up giving me my pension for life, which I got at 19. Normally, you have to work until, I don't know, 50 or something to get that. They agreed to pay for my school. So I guess it was a net positive, but it was a challenge at the time because all I'd ever wanted to do was be in the military, be special forces. And now I was like, I have absolutely no idea what I want to do with my life.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. I'm searching up, I couldn't find that story. So I don't know how often you tell it. And maybe I just couldn't find it. So I appreciate the details. Out of curiosity, obviously it was you were shot in the leg. Maybe it would affect special forces, but after recovery, was there ever a thought, okay, I'm better now, I'm going to go back into the military? I'm curious what the path was there.
So the way it works in the Canadian military is you're assigned a disability percentage. So 100% is you're dead, obviously full disability, you can't do anything. Maybe 1% is some kind of scratches or you're upset or something. This was well beyond my pay grade. This is what Veterans Affairs assigns, but essentially me being shot with the combination of my boss spreading those stories and harassing me. He did a bunch of other stuff too, which was very nasty, basically combined to give me a disability rating of 32% at that time. And my understanding is anything above a 30% disability rating is an automatic medical release. So it's not even up to you. Below 30%, you have a conversation. Above 30%, you're out.
And you were 19?
I was 19 years old, yeah.
I don't know why for some reason I had that you were 7 years in the military. That was not correct.
So there was a long period after that. So I joined
it.
at 17, the shooting happened, and then I essentially moved into a psychological operation role and also an admin role while I waited for the medical release. But I had to go through massive hurdles. It was basically like a lawsuit in itself, where it was a 5-year
Wow.
period.
And just out of curiosity, you keep saying the word boss, which you don't normally hear in a military setting. Is that a common thing to say boss?
No, so the military saying would be my 2IC, second in command.
But it's easier to say, got it.
Yeah, boss. I'd rather say boss.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's such a pivotal, like you said, a pivotal moment, a pivotal, not just moment, thing to happen. You're a teenager.
Yeah.
Then you go to school twice. What was the thought process there? And is this, again, I'm going to hold on to what you said, where you said you're grasping at straws. Are you yet grasping at straws, or is that a little bit further in your career when you were talking about that?
No, this was certainly the grasping at straws period. I was still dealing with some fallout from the shooting. I had school pay for it, so it just made sense. That was the logical next step. I had a pension, so I wasn't as financially desperate as other students might be. And I just was trying to figure out the next thing that I wanted to do. I was also going to a lot of networking events at that time, a bit introverted, and just trying to break out of my shell and figure out what there is out there. And I was inspired. I was inspired by the Apprentice show, actually. Not realistic at all in hindsight of how business actually works, but I was, if I'm not going to do special forces, I would like to try and do something really interesting in the business space, and maybe I could do that. But I had no idea how to do it. I didn't have any entrepreneurs in my family either.
So did you go right to law school after you finished at University of Victoria?
There was a period where I had to apply and do a bunch
Okay, but that was your like it's school's paid for. Let me get the best education as far as I can take it. Now in Canada, is there a bar exam similar to the US?
Yeah, there is.
And you took that as well. You did not. Okay.
No.
So tell me about that.
So how it works is in the UK where I went to law school, if you have a bachelor's degree already, it's only 2 years law school. Whereas it's 3 years if you don't have it, which is similar to here. And there's also no LSAT in the UK. It's pretty much based exclusively on how you did in grades with your bachelor's degree or in high school. When you come back, you have to do something called your NCAs, which is basically a bunch of tests to replace that third year in law school that you would do here. Then there's articling for a year, and then then you start preparing for a bar exam. What happened was when I came back, I started reaching out to law firms to do my NCAs or to get ready for articling as well. And I got handed a really good opportunity where I connected with this managing partner, and he was like, "Look, I really like you. I like your energy. We really want to grow this thing in a big way. Would you be interested in helping us with that?" And I was like, I'm still want to be a lawyer, but I also wasn't really that enthused. I didn't love law school. I did well in it, but reading case law from the 1800s, 100 pages a day was tedious. And I was like, is this really what law is? I thought it was something like Legally Blonde, where you just show up and you slam down the piece of paper and you get the gotcha or suits or something. I guess a lot of law students think that, but I was like, oh, I don't know that I love this too much, but certainly interested in law. So I was like, why don't I just join this firm? I can join this firm today. I can start making money. I can do big things, and then I can always go and do the rest of my process. And it just never happened. I just got further away from practicing law and closer to business.
And it makes it like just going through the way you're dissecting this for me, which I totally appreciate it. And it's really helpful. And I think other people will get value from this. So thank you. Again, it was paid for, you were getting the most education, but you had this business sense. And so then you got this business opportunity. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit to,
Sure.
and we can always go back and forth, but just to keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward to CleoCon.
Okay.
Why were you there in the first place? Out of curiosity, were you had you already left that firm and you were looking for new opportunities, or were you still at the firm?
I left that firm and I joined a new firm, a same industry, family law. At that point, I was getting pretty depressed with divorce law. It was not a happy space. It was very
Yeah.
chaotic. And I'd started to notice that legal tech was really taking off. So there was Clio, there was LegalZoom, there was Law Depot, which is a website that looks like it's from the 1990s, but they do really well. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting. I was also doing some part-time journalism at that time. And I was also running an account called Attorney Problems, which has almost 300,000 followers on Instagram. And the Clio people invited me over. They said they
What
would
is it? I'm sorry. What is it called?
Attorney Problems. It's like the biggest legal meme Instagram account, I think, in the
All right.
world.
Let's just pause there for a second. How did you build Instagram account called Attorney Problems to have 300,000 followers? Like what?
Yeah, I joined it. So the gentleman who created it, his name's Dean. He's a lawyer in Los Angeles, and he wanted to bring on someone as a partner to run it. He'd been doing it for a while, but like the law firm, he wanted to really step it up. At that time, he just said, "Why don't you join?" So he did the morning posts, I did the night posts, and once we started combining, it really took off, and the amount of followers just exploded.
And what were you posting to get it to take off?
Oh, just legal memes, any silly legal meme that you can find.
Oh, so you were finding them and then just reposting them. You weren't creating them.
No, we'd find the templates and then we would create them. You have to create your own
Got
originals.
it.
Yeah.
Got it. That's super cool. All right. And by the way, one of the things, just as an aside, when I was looking to see as an entrepreneur myself, what I was so interested and impressed on, how many times since you started this business, how you had to pivot so many different times. And I'm curious to see how you're doing today and where the business is. And we will get to that. But it is so hard to pivot. It is so hard to build a new software, a new platform, and actually make it work. You can pivot many times and build new things. It doesn't mean people will buy it. And it's even something that we are trying to do at Lawline. And I can see, understanding your origin story and what you've done, I'm starting to get a sense of, oh, okay, here's why he was able to pivot. This is how he thinks, and this is who he is, and what he's done and accomplished. All right. So now you were invited because you had this Instagram account and they wanted you to come do what there?
They wanted me to interview their C-suite. So I interviewed Jack Newton, the CEO. I interviewed their COO, their CTO, a whole bunch of people. And it was partly because I was actually doing my job, doing journalist stuff as well, and posting on the Instagram account. But I was also just trying to get information about legal tech. And when you're a journalist, people answer your questions more than someone off the street. So I was certainly asking some questions that were suspicious. Like, why do you care about that? But what I really wanted to know was like, how can I get out of the legal industry and how can I get into legal tech? What are the opportunities? How does this whole thing work? And they were really generous. Their COO at the time, George Fasaris,
Yep.
he invited me to their VIP events, their backroom events, and he basically hung out with me. And it turned out that I lived around 5 minutes away from him and Jack Newton when we got back to North Vancouver or back to Vancouver. So yeah, they just became advisors to me and friends, and they answered my questions as I had them.
But from what I saw in terms of Ryan, so I know he was, I guess what Clio's grown so much and they're constantly upping their C-suite. And like George has exited, Ryan has exited, Jack is still there and he's still killing it. But I guess as they prepare to go public or whatever they're going to do eventually, is that why Ryan was leaving? Essentially, they were, I don't know. I don't know the details behind it, but was there a conversation with him? When was that conversation where he's like, you know what, let me help you? When did that happen?
Ryan's a startup guy. He loves startups. He lives for it. And I think as I don't want to tell his story for him, but as Clio grew, he just found that he loves the early stage of being in the trenches, hustling,
Yeah.
not having a clear thesis, and just fighting for everything. Other people love control, right? They want to be able to manage something that's well taken care of. It's not going to die if you neglect it for a day or something or
Yeah.
go on vacation. So there's two different kinds of people. I met Ryan through George, actually. So I approached George and I was like, I want to start this blur review website, which became ClearWay. And he said, I'm very busy right now. I'm the CEO of Clio. I'm not really investing in anything right now, but Ryan he's interested in startups. He's looking for the next thing to do. So that's how I got connected with Ryan.
Got it. And it's a testament to you because I can imagine at that time, there's a ton of legal tech budding entrepreneurs reaching out to everybody at Clio for ideas and wanting to do something together. And just out of curiosity, like even back then, like it was clear Avo was getting sued and having challenges, and they were already there. And even if they weren't, there was already a law review site that existed. So I'm curious why that was even like, you thought, why was that your idea?
Yeah. There was no Avo in Canada, the UK, or anywhere else outside of the US. It was quite competitive in the US. Avo did well. Mark Britton, he did well. There was a lot of drama. I think they got sued 7 days after they started it, but they ended up winning all those lawsuits. They
Yeah.
cleared them all out, and then they went on to have an exit of I think $850 million US or something like that.
Yeah.
So the idea was they did well with it. Why can't we do well with it in Canada, the UK? And even if we can't build an Avo, if we can get a whole bunch of traffic, maybe we can use it for something else, like a SaaS product in the future, get eyeballs. And we also
All
just
right.
kind of wanted to, Ryan's obviously very wealthy already. I had an exit at that point too. And we wanted to do, or around that time, we wanted to do something that was just different, not just a typical SaaS product, something that might piss people off, something that might get a lot of attention, just something that's different. And that was the thesis there.
Love it. And this is where I'm unclear. Did you become partners with Ryan, or he was an advisor, or what? How did you get started? How did you build it? Take us through those early days.
We never defined that relationship well. I think that was a challenge where
Okay.
with him, I mean, he put up the money for it. He brought in the investors for it. We basically started it together. But as is typical when you deal with high net worth people, even today with Caseway, they're there for you when they are looking to be, but they also go away to Italy for 3 weeks to go golfing. So it's hard to call them a business partner because a business partner doesn't really do that. But it's what you get when you interact with those people. You're never going to have 100% of their attention. They have other things, they have other startups, they have other investments as well. So he would say he was a senior advisor. I would say he was like a co-founder, but we
Got
never.
it. Awesome. So how do you build? How do you go from not having a law review site that you start scraping profile? Like, how did you build it from nothing? And I assume there's more privacy regulations in Canada, which made it more challenging. But
Yeah.
I don't even know where it ended. I know where you were able to build 1.1 million profiles, I think is what I read. So love to understand that.
So let me, first of all, this is something that everyone gets confused on. The difference between scraping and indexing. Scraping is when you go to one website and you just collect all their data, whereas indexing is what Google and Bing does. They send out something called web crawlers, and it looks at everything. So when you post something on your website, these web crawlers are going to constantly go there and look and see if anything's been changed or edited, and then it indexes it on Google and Bing, which is generally considered to be okay, and people like it, and they actually spend money on SEO and pay-per-click. So scraping isn't great because when you go and you scrape something, the information becomes outdated. So what you really want to do is you want to build web crawlers. So how we started was we just started building an Avo. That was the task to our developers, was like,
Okay.
here's what Avo looks like. They've done well. We want to build it in Canada, the UK, and Ireland. And we started building it. We started sending out, there was some scraping in the early days, but we moved very quickly to web crawlers because people were complaining about outdated information. That's the problem with scraping. And I think we got 100,000 lawyers up pretty quickly, and then that grew over time to 1.1 million and 200,000 people every month still today on the website and over 35,000 reviews.
Wow. That's awesome. Let's pause here for a moment and say, what did you, because this was was this before you mentioned you had an exit? Was this before that exit of the e-commerce business?
It was around the same time,
Okay.
actually, because, yeah.
So what kind of things were you, or if anything, were you doing to help you learn entrepreneurship, self-improvement, business? Was there any books that were pivotal for you during that period?
Yeah, I love the book Decisions by Jim Treliving. He's on basically the Canadian Shark Tank called Dragon's Den. He created Boston Pizza. I think it has a different name in the States, but he lives in the
Okay.
States now. It's his story, and what I really loved about it, it was not a clean story. He ended up building a multi-billion-dollar company, but he almost went bankrupt so many times. He had massive divorce blowouts, massive business partner blowouts, and pretty much everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, and he still made it. So I really love those kind of stories where the person's being honest, whereas there's other
Yeah.
kinds of writers where you just can't. I've read Donald Trump's books too, and it's interesting, but you just never really know if it's the true story or not. Whereas with other people that just put it out there and they're like, I totally screwed this up.
Yeah.
You can be like, that's valuable.
First of all, I've never heard of that book, so that's great. And I can tell you one of the best advices I got from my dad is, and you see it all the time, one of the worst things you can do in business is not make a decision.
Right.
Because not making a decision is actually making a decision too of not doing anything. And that's always been an area where I've struggled because you don't want to make the wrong decision or you're not sure where to go. And then in my own learnings and growth path, one of the phrases that helped me so much in making more decisions quicker is a phrase, good thing, bad thing, who knows? And it's based on the concept that you generally judge something or a decision or a result as bad 20 times more likely. Once you label something bad, you experience it as bad. And as
Right.
like you just said in this book, just because something didn't go the way you didn't expect it to go doesn't mean it won't lead to a better, different path. And
Yeah.
again, you getting shot has led you to this path in
Right.
life. And so that has been an interesting concept for me in making more decisions. So I'm super pumped that's on my list. I'm sure other people as well. Any other books, either then or now, just since we're talking about books that we can add to the list?
It's not a business book, but The Three Body Problem for sure. I learned so much from that, and it's so
The
well written.
the three body problem.
Yeah,
Never heard of that
it's more
either.
about astrophysics, but it's basically a story. It's still the same, where it's a story, but into the future about human progression and overcoming massive tech hurdles and challenges. And I'm really obsessed with that, especially in the AI space. So what does the future look like? And that book provides some really credible future paths of where humanity could be going. And AI is a part of that, even though it was written before the current AI hype cycle.
I have read different futurists, including Ray Kurzweil. About there's several books that he wrote about the singularity and the future there. Can you take us through? Does it talk about the singularity in this book? I want to bet I know this is a different branch, but like I said, this is a conversation, not an interview.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious.
So basically, the thesis of the book is that humanity finds out that an alien force has discovered them and they're coming to Earth in 400 years. And it's a race from a technological perspective for how to prepare for that to give humanity the best chance.
Like they see the
And
light coming and they recognize that's going to take them 400 years to get there.
yeah, because they're able to detect the speed that they're going, the distance. And so, yeah, it's a massive AI race basically to try and get humanity up. There's different people working on different projects. Some are focusing on like bioengineering, some are focusing on AI, some are focusing on weapons, like more powerful nuclear weapons. One person's working on a singularity as well, where they're trying to build a mini black hole to basically hide Earth from it, to hide it behind this black curtain. And then some of the tech things don't work out. It's just not plausible, or they become super unethical. There's a big challenge around ethics as well. We can do a lot of stuff in AI, but there's challenges with ethics. But this takes it to the extreme where there's this massive pressure coming down.
Wow. Why is it called a three body problem?
So the three body problem is it's a mathematical concept where essentially there's three different bodies, let's just say planets, circling each other. And when you get three bodies separate going around each other, the way that they interact with each other with their gravity becomes so unpredictable that for the longest time, mathematicians couldn't predict where the next planet would be. So it basically made it completely impossible to know. The reason for that in the book is that the reason why the alien race leaves is that they have three suns. We have one sun in our solar system, they have three. And they're trying to predict the path because sometimes they have three suns on them and it burns their planet. Sometimes they have zero suns near them and it freezes their planet. And then one day they're trying to find out, is their planet going to go into one of the suns? And because they can't solve this problem, just like we can't solve the three body problem, and from a mathematician point, they decide to just invade Earth.
I can see this as a future movie. I also don't know how to go back to legal tech from this awesome conversation.
It's on Netflix, though.
What? It's on Netflix?
It's on Netflix.
Oh,
Yeah.
there is a movie.
They're doing a series. Yeah, it's really popular. I'm surprised you haven't heard of it. Yeah.
I have 3 kids and a dog and running a business, and I do like to travel as well.
Okay. You have a life. I understand.
No, but there are people who who like watch stuff. I'm watching The Pit right now, which is on HBO Max. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's about an emergency room in Pittsburgh, and it's like the ER. They'll show the ER on steroids, and it's really good. So I am watching that.
Yeah.
One more question about books. What's the most recent book that you've read that's been impactful for you?
I've been working my way through the three body problem. That's consumed
so
all my brain.
So is that a series of books as well? Is that?
Yeah, there's 5 of them, and they're like Bible size. They're really big.
Got it. So I know people always say read the book versus watch the show, but does the show do it justice?
There's different shows. So the Netflix one is pretty good for sure.
Okay.
If you're not going to read, the book is really focused on physics. There's a lot of really advanced terms. And so if you're not going to, but lawyers can read generally.
Yeah.
Read if you can.
Last I read Lawyers Are People, at least for today. Certainly not in the future. Not in the future. All right. Today you're running, you've pivoted a couple of times. You pivoted, and look, if anybody wants to get more details, there is a good interview that you did with Lawyer. I think you go into some of these things in a little bit more detail. You talk about the lawsuits. You talk about the pivoting to the ClearWay time. Is that correct? Am I saying that right?
ClearWay time was really my grasping at straws with that. So what happened was we were building ClearWay, the lawyer review website, and we had a lot of traffic. So 200,000 people on it, a lot of reviews, but it was really hard to commercialize it because we were trying to sell to the lawyers, but lawyers were upset about getting bad reviews. I think 60% of lawyers got good reviews on it, 40% got bad reviews. But when someone gets a good review on your website, they don't go and sing your praise. But when someone gets a bad review on your website, they're like, Alistair is a piece of crap, and they personally attack you. So it became very hard to sell with that, but we left it up, and it's still up today because it's doing good. But what happened was we were trying to raise money to build an Avo because there are costs with that. And ChatGPT came out in January 2023, or at least the popular model. And all of the investor, all of the user, everyone's interest just went towards AI. So ClearWay Time was really us trying to quickly create an AI product to go into the space. And it just wasn't that good. That's just it
was a time tracker using AI?
No. So the idea was, I still might do this one day, but someone else doing it. A lot of the lawyers waste time on consultations. So yeah, if you do business law, I might come to you and I might say, oh, I have an idea for a company or something. And then you're in a consultation with me for 30 minutes. But the idea is that you would send the person a whole bunch of questions before, and the AI would assign a grade rating. So if I say I have no budget, that's obviously going to push me more towards an F. If I say I'm looking to hire a lawyer next year instead of immediately, more towards an F. And the AI calculated a grade score, and then it would automatically rank all of your consult requests per day.
Got it.
So that if you only had 2, yeah.
Got it. Okay. So that wasn't, like you said, it wasn't that good. And the review site's still there. By the way, just out of curiosity, how painful was it you personally when you started getting people ripping you apart personally on social media? Because I know that's what you said. How did you deal with that?
I thought it was funny, to be honest.
Okay. Good attitude.
Yeah, because a lawyer gets a bad review on our website, the client says, "Hey, this person's a bad lawyer," and then instead of improving their practice or responding to the review, they're going to go personally attack me. They probably are a bad lawyer, and I think
Yeah.
that's hilarious that we've outed this person.
Did you ever respond to them, or you just moved on? You didn't pay.
I tried it in the beginning where I'm like, "Hey, like I didn't post this review. This is just a
Yeah.
lawyer." They don't give a shit. Like
Yeah.
they're not interested in my justification for this.
No, it's a really great point, because if you are not, whatever, if it was me and that's happened, I would go to solve it and talk to it. And if I wanted to reach out to you, I would try to explain my situation
Right.
versus attacking you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We took
And
down
then,
some reviews, by the way, when the lawyer did reach out. And I think that's a problem a lot of lawyers have is they're so used to being hammers. But we
yeah,
had some people that were like, look, I've never represented this person. Here's some
right.
proof that this is the opposing party. We would take down a review. But if they're just
To-
threatening me, I'm like, whatever.
100%. And then I was reading, and this is again, so what I did is I took your interview, I put it into ChatGPT, and I said, summarize it for me. I put it into Google LLM, whatever you call it now, and
Mm.
it gives a really good timeline. So this is the timeline you get from that. So it's cool. But so I want to make sure I understood. So it seems like you had then had the idea for the legal research company, but you were trying, if I understood correctly, trying to do this just for you, not with the past investors. Is that correct?
I wanted to see if it was possible. So I reached out to someone who I know who's very tech savvy. And I said, is it even, how much would it cost to build something that could go through 3 million, 100 million court decisions within seconds and answer questions? Would it cost $1 billion? Would it cost 100 million? Is it something we can do bootstrap? And he spent 6 months on it and I had forgot about it. I was focusing on ClearWay time, trying to make that work. And he came back to me one day and he was like, is this useful? Because he's not a law guy. And I was like, this is incredible. I was asking it hard questions. It was answering it. It was finding cases. And then I took it to 100 law firms. And again, I was just showing it to people, lawyers I knew. And I was like, is this useful for your area of law? And they were like, how do I sign up for this? I never had that kind of really interest in buying something from us before.
It's just so I understand, you brought it to somebody, 6 months later, he built it without even telling you.
I asked him if he could build it, and then he hadn't really gotten back to me. Tech people are really bad at providing updates, and he had just been working on it really hard during that time. So yes,
Did you, did you pay him, or were you just doing it to see if he could do it?
he was just doing it to see if he could do
Got
it.
it. Okay. What month is this?
That was around.
No,
He came
one
back to
year.
me in August 2024.
Okay. So this is pretty recent. So what,
Yeah.
so you're past, and this, you started a new company then?
Not at that point. Like we
Okay.
started a new company much later, like maybe 4 months after that. Again, at this point, it was just can we build it? Because I didn't want to do what I did with ClearWay, where we build it and then find out people want to buy it. You want to build something, see if people want it, and then build a
Well,
company from there.
there's a great book, and I might have it back there that I can look for. It's called Monetizing Innovation. And it talks about the big challenge, and you would actually appreciate the book a lot. I would recommend it because, and I actually, one of the Simon Partners is a big consulting firm, and their founders are the ones who wrote it. I interviewed Lawyers Who Learn, one of the, not the founders of the company, but somebody who talks about it. And it's about pricing and monetization. And what they talk about in the book, and where people, when they try to innovate, get it wrong, is they have the idea, they build the product, they put together the marketing ideas, and then the last time they're like, what should we price this? And the flip side is you first focus on what do we price this product? And how do you get that answer is you go out to the market, and
Yes.
it gives you all, you don't just say, you give them many different ways to talk about it. Because it's one thing for them to say, would you buy this? Yeah, sure. Would you buy this at
Right.
$50 a month? I don't know, well, 1,000, or would these 6 features be good, or you give them 13 features? So is that, it sounds like to some way that's the way you were end up approaching this, because you didn't want to build it until you had some potential interest.
Yeah, we were showing it to them, and then we were saying, is this useful? And what ideas do you have? And the nice and bad thing about lawyers at the same time is that they'll always provide you with very
Yeah.
honest, harsh, direct feedback. So they would say, I really like this. I think this could be improved. This isn't that great or useful. And I wrote everything down. Every single meeting, I wrote it down. And then I went back to our developers, and that's what we built. And then on the pricing side, I started offering different options. Would you pay this amount? Or would it be better to buy credits and it could be a per search? And also time to investors too, because you have to get their feedback about, is this something that we put money on? And then we got consensus for probably the first time ever where everyone seemed to be on the same page.
Okay, so where are you at today? Because from what I understand, all the big players are essentially offering this to some degree right now. Case Law was acquired by Thomson Reuters for $650 million and essentially was for some form of this. There's a lot of other companies that I know do this. Have you ever heard of Any Law? Steve Tover is the founder of it. It's very similar to what you're talking about, what you have, and similar pricing too. So where are you at today? You mentioned you had 175 signups within the first 3 weeks. Give us a sense of the product.
Sure. So it's been 7 months and now we're at 2,500 users, which has been a massive growth for us. We're still charging $49. We haven't increased that. One thing that people like about our product is that it is a chatbot style versus Thomson Reuters and LexisNexis, where it's still really a legal research pulling out information. But the thing that people are most excited about is the bespoke agent, where essentially a divorce law firm could upload thousands of separation agreements they've done in the past, and they would populate our database with their own information and ask questions, and it would create the separation agreement the exact way, format, wording that law firm always does it, because every lawyer or law firm has their own way of doing it. By the way, LexisNexis uses ChatGPT. They just posted that the other day. And they're essentially a ChatGPT wrapper. They have their own stuff, but they are using their own LLM. We're building our own LLM. And as far as we know, it's the first LLM that's going to be specific for law. And we're going to be charging that as an API. And we got $750,000 grant to build the first phase of that LLM. So we're doing a lot of things that are very different than any other company out there.
Very cool. Have you also raised money in addition to the grant?
$500,000, yeah.
Got it. And so what's like for your first business, you raised money, you had Ryan as an investor. What's happening there? Like, I know that must be a challenging thing to like leave that behind and start something new. And, you want to make your investors whole. Is that something what have you learned from that process?
Brian's doing well. He just raised $3 million for his company called Aeon, AEON, and he's basically building a Clio for the healthcare space. So he's doing very well, and he's not concerned about that at all. I still want to do something with ClearWay for sure. It still has 200,000 people on it every single month. I've been looking at a bunch of different AI products for it. One thing I was looking at was AI for receptionists for law. The problem is the server costs. The server costs are horrendous. They're 20 cents per minute. And I did the same thing. I went to a bunch of law firms. I was like, how many minutes do you spend a month talking to people on the phone? It turned out that it would cost us around $1,400 in server costs a month per law firm, which is just insane. We'd have to be charging $1,600, $1,700 a month. There is some hope with that, though. The DeepSeek, they came out, they said that they've managed to solve the AI server costs with improving hardware, improving mathematics. I don't know anything about the hardware side. But if server costs for AI come down a lot, especially like the microchips, that could be something that we would love to execute because it works really well. I think it would add a lot of value. But I want to find an AI product for ClearWay in the future, maybe after I sell Caseway. But until then, I'm still spending about an hour just maintaining a ClearWay website.
It's super clear to me that you will figure this out and have a big exit at some point. It might not be this at the time that you want, but like you've been working hard, you understand what you're doing, and you've tried to work through the market. So that's from my seat. It's easier for me to say, but you're doing the work. You mentioned before we started, one of the reasons you sleep there is because you have young kids. How many kids do you have? What's the ages and how? Because it's work-life balance, right? It's tough to build a startup with kids. And I'm just curious how you're balancing that.
I don't have work-life balance, so I gave up on that a long time ago. I just don't think it's possible if you want to build really large things. I think you can achieve work-life balance once you've made it to some degree and you can hire managers to do everything. But as a startup, you really can't step away for a week, go sit on a beach, or you come back and your company's dead. I have one child, 2 months old as of yesterday, so just turned 2.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Yeah, thanks.
And what does that, just out of curiosity, what does that mean, no work-life balance to you right now? How much are you working?
I work 80 hours a week, but I'm always thinking about work. I'm always
Yeah,
researching. I'm always learning. I'm always watching documentaries, podcasts, pretty much from when I wake up to when I go to bed. Even if I'm going out, I'm going out for a reason. So tonight I'm going to a hockey game, but there's a bunch of investors there and I've been invited to go there. I go out to investor meetings, all kinds of stuff, but I'm never going to just spend the day watching Netflix or hang out at the beach for no reason. I just don't do those things.
totally. I travel specifically with my family. My kids are older now. We moved
Right.
to Barcelona for a couple of years and lived
Cool.
out there. And for me, you can always make more money, but you can't make more time, especially
Mm.
in these with your kids. And I think travel is one of the things where core memories are really formed, where you experience and get uncomfortable together. That's an
Right.
aside. And I've been doing this 17 years. So I think to some degree, we use a framework called scaling up, which is similar to EOS. I don't know if you're familiar with either of them.
Yeah.
And we built a structure and a whole team process where it's like the visionary integrator
Right.
process. So it's been cool. You just in the last few minutes, you mentioned again, because this is a learning show and I love to get things that you learn from. You mentioned you watch documentaries and podcasts. Are there any top of mind for documentaries that you would recommend that have been impactful for you that you can think of right now?
They're all impactful. I love the Firefest ones for sure. I love the Theranos
What
ones. The thing is that you
was the
meet
second one you said? Firefest, and what was the other one?
Theranos. It was the Out for Blood with
Okay,
Elizabeth
yeah.
Holmes. The truth of the matter is that most of the documentaries are based on frauds because if someone just created a great company and they just built it over time and everything went well, that's not really newsworthy for a documentary. So you need that controversy and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But you get to see an insight into what was a $9 billion company like Theranos, and you can see like how their financials worked, how their development process worked, and how their partnerships worked. And it's really fascinating that, for example, she was so good at storytelling and such a strong personal brand that she built it to a $9 billion company, but there was nothing. Like there was no product at all. And it's crazy that you can build a $9 billion company with no real product that works. So imagine that you have a product that works and you learn to storytell. That's how you really make it. So you can take away a lot of stuff, even when the story is negative, essentially.
I love that. And I haven't seen that one. So
I'll watch
we'll
it.
add that to my list.
Yeah.
And podcasts, any ones that you listen to regularly, or even an episode of one that really impacted you?
The Life of a CEO is good. My First Million is good. Those are two good ones.
Okay.
A lot of times I'm searching a specific topic though,
Yeah.
and it just turns out that there's a documentary or a podcast about it. Like I've been looking into asset protection and offshore trusts recently, so I've just been watching everything. And you might end up watching a podcast that has like 20 views or something like that, but it's so niche to what you're looking into, like a Bahamas trust or something, that you learn so much about it. So I don't generally follow like one specific person and then just allow them to feed me whatever they think is relevant at that time.
Awesome. I appreciate that. I like to at the end, because for me, I feel like I've to some degree at certain times put you on the hot seat, ask you a lot of questions, and you've been very open and sharing. Is there any questions that you have for me to put me on the hot seat? I'll give you like the last question, the last word. And if not, that's okay too. But I just think it's a fair way to put it, because sometimes you learn in different ways, and maybe there's something I have in my experience that I can help with as well. And if not, that's okay too. And I think we've done our job and provided value for everybody out there.
Yeah, sure. So my question is, what was the most relatable thing that I said, either positively or negative, to your past story today?
There's so much that's relatable in the entrepreneurship journey, because we're all, again, that's why I grasped at what you said. We're all at different stages grasping at straws and what we're trying to do. And I'll share this. So Lawline, since since I've been doing this 17 years, and my main focus has been lifelong learning. That's what drives me. That's who I am. That's what I'm passionate about. We've built it's continuing legal education, which is a mandatory product, and we built a really great product. We're the largest in the space in terms of subscribers and courses completed. We have many times over the years, and we're still working on a couple of different projects, add another software or platform or on top of what we do, because we have customers who come to us year after year for many years, and they rely on us when we really serve that well. It has been a challenge for us, though, to build one that has taken off to the way we wanted it to. Because many times when we build, even though I know the concepts, we build based on idea and marketing, and then we put it out there, and some people are interested and some people aren't. The one thing that has, similar to you, that has taken off more than anything else and is our largest growing product besides continuing legal education is accreditation services for law firms and organizations. And the reason we knew it would do well is, I don't know, maybe like the 15th client who asked us if we do it, I kept saying no because I didn't want to do it. Then eventually I was like, if we do it, I don't want to do it like with paper and then sending it. I want to build an online platform where they can upload their content, put it on there. We can actually serve the courses for them. And so that's what we recently built based on that need. And similar to you, people were signing up and putting it out there. Still, nothing's ever as fast as I want.
Sure.
I believe in the pivot. Energizes me. I'm full of ideas like you, and it's just figuring out where to go. So your whole journey I can relate to, and I respect your origin story in military service and how you had one path in your life and now you pivoted and you're doing it. You got your incubator room over there so you can get your sleep and work hard.
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question good enough.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks.
Awesome. Cool. I think I use enough of your time so you can get back to your day job, but I really appreciate this. And I hope that you can share this with potential partners or clients or others, because it shows who you are as an individual. And I think that's what people will resonate with.
Right.
Like you're not just someone trying to sell them a software. You're somebody who has a story. And I hope I was able to bring it out a little bit today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me
Cool.
on.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, Alistair, take care.
Bye.